What's happening? Andy here. I'm joined today by Jim Haney. Jim is with Novatech down in based in Tennessee. How are you today? What's happening?
I'm doing good, doing good. Yeah, good old Nashville.
Yep.
It's a nice hot day here today.
Yeah, you're in the headquarters. Okay, I wasn't sure if it was Nashville, but I kind of thought based on our earlier conversations that's where you were headquartered. And just take a step back for the maybe the couple people who aren't familiar with Novatech. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you probably are. But give us the overview. Who's Novatech? What markets are you in, and what do you do for them?
Yeah, I'm the vice president of marketing here at Novatech. So Novatech is the managed office provider. So we do everything, and that's Andy, as you know, that's not an industry term. It's one that we came up with, but it's really bringing together the best of managed IT, print, cloud, and security. And what's unique about how we do it is we really try to break down the barriers and just make it simple, right? And add simplicity to the customer, and so they just know their stuff works. And one of the phrases we came up with is, we're providing one contact, one contract, and one number to call, and just really focused on providing the very best service and services across the U.S. Our territory is the U.S., so we do provide everything nationwide, which is awesome. Our headquarters, as you mentioned at the start, is here in Nashville, and then we also have, if you want to call it, a sub headquarters in Atlanta as well. But we do cover the entire U.S.
So I've been to the Nashville location. We did our Jillian ride. We were just reminiscing our charity ride we do every year, and you guys have hosted us, I think, a couple times.
We
Mr.
have.
Cooper, Dan was there. It was great to see him welcome us the
Yeah.
first year, and then I think we came back a second year. So you mentioned you were on crutches that year. I don't remember the crutches, but what now? You're off the crutches. Things are better now, so that's good.
Yeah, that was not a fun month or so when I blew out my knee. It was zero fun.
Well, you guys are super busy, and I wanted to catch up with you. We like to keep in touch and keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry. And you guys are
Yeah.
very busy, very aggressive out there in the field. You've been acquiring and actually just recently acquired a good friend of mine down in Carolina, in South Carolina. Why don't you
Did.
tell us a little bit about that acquisition?
Yeah, so we recently announced the acquisition of Carolina Business Equipment in South Carolina, and yeah, they're a fantastic company. John Ekstrom, as I'm sure you're referring to, was the president owner. Outstanding company, great business, great people, great tenure over there. They've been doing it for a long time, since in the 1970s. And they really married nicely with that managed office vision that we have, right? Which is they're also providing, good standard copier printer equipment, but also managed IT, managed print, and so forth. So we're really excited to bring them into the fold. They are staying as Carolina Business Equipment. So we're just still in the stages of getting to know each other and all that kind of stuff, but such a great company and great people over there.
Well, I've actually been there too. I visited John down there and saw his operation, and I think actually the last time I ate grits was down there earlier this year
Yeah.
when I popped in for that visit, and John took me on a tour of the town and saw his facility and his people and his managed services setup, his SOC, all that. Great company. So
It's impressive setup. It
yeah.
really is. When you go down there, it's like amazing what they have set up.
And it's in multiple locations. I haven't been to the other locations, but that one that was really cool because they had that whole managed services building that was separate from the office equipment building, and
Correct.
it
Correct.
was I felt like it was kind of funny because you walk into that other building, into the managed services, and it's just it's just screens everywhere. All the rooms are dark, and
Yep.
it's like if you turned a light on, you almost think these guys would all run for cover and everything. It's just it's so dark in there, and there were just so many eyes in front of computers, and
Sure.
it was
Sure.
very futuristic looking though. For being down there in South Carolina, I thought that was pretty interesting. And so you guys are acquiring. You're currently still you're looking for good companies to bring on board for Novatech. What kind of companies are you looking for? Is it just copier companies? Is it managed services? Are there other areas you're looking to expand as well?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's all case by case, but at the end of the day, that there's a couple key elements that Dan and team are looking for. I mean, we want a company that's well established, right? That's well known in the market, has a good reputation, has that forward thinking, customer driven, customer focused approach. but it's usually either a managed IT company, a managed print company, or a copier dealership that's embracing both. And because that's really where the puck is going, as you know, from a dealer perspective. And yeah, it's all case by case. So Dan and team are out there, they're talking to them, and if everything is right and it's right for the dealer, it's right for us, then we move forward. But
you've been active. You've been active.
Yeah. Yeah, and our growth is really focused around two core elements, right? Organic and through strategic acquisition, and we've had growth in both those areas. So it's a nice combination, and it's really allowing us to expand throughout the U.S. and continue to share that managed office vision and portfolio with businesses across the U.S.
So in your world, what is it? Let's focus a little bit more on the marketing side of this.
Sure.
Let's talk about what that's like. Trying to keep the wheels moving forward on a company that's in multiple markets. You're in managed services, you're in office equipment, your traditional copy or break fix.
Yep.
You're in different markets that you haven't been in the past. So you mentioned you're keeping CBE as the CB brand down there. You're not changing it to Novatech, which seems like a probably good idea. They have a good reputation down there, right? So
correct.
Tell me a bit about the marketing program over there. What do you guys do? How's that working for you? What do you do?
Yeah, Andy, from a marketing perspective, I could boil it down to two primary things. As the end goal. Number one is how do we drive more leads into the business? So we're very focused on that. Now, as as I'm sure everyone who's listening knows, there's a lot of levers you got to pull to accomplish that. And then the second one is obviously how do we drive the brand and brand reputation, brand acknowledgement, where people think of us when they're at that moment of truth, right? When they're trying to make a decision or look or research a solution. So from a digital marketing, if we wanted to just kind of segment to that side, there's some core elements that we've really implemented over the last 3 to 4 years that have made a huge difference for us from a marketing perspective. And it all starts, from the website. So the website is kind of like your digital business card that's out there for customers. I think sometimes people, all of us make the mistake of it becoming our ego site, right? It's where we want to talk a bunch of jargon, say how amazing we are. And so what we try to do is kind of reverse that. It's more about answering the questions that the customers are asking and making it very intuitive. So, from a marketing standpoint, when you're looking at those things, there's really three core components that you want to focus on. And there's even a bonus fourth that I'll mention. But the first one is making sure your website's technically sound. And that sounds so basic or technical, but it's really, are you using a solid CMS? Or if it's not on a CMS, is it coded, under sound premise? Do you have a good sitemap, and really thinking through the sitemap and making it logical and how the customer would follow it through and it's through their journey, and also how would Google follow it as it's crawling the site, making sure that it's optimized for mobile, all those things. So once you have that foundational element, that sound and good meta tags and all that kind of stuff, the second one is content. Going back to what I said a minute ago, you want to make sure that the content that's sitting on your website is geared towards, one, it's optimized for search, but also geared towards answering questions that customers are actually going to. You and I both can think of times we've searched for something, we're online, we're Googling, we get to a website, and it's like, I didn't learn anything, I didn't get the answer I was looking for, it's just a bunch of fluff.
Frustrating.
And so, yeah, it's frustrating. People bounce, and that's, they bounce off the site. So we try to optimize towards the questions that customers are asking and making it jargon free as much as we can and speaking to the audience. The other component of content is making sure that you're frequent with new content. Okay, so what I mean by that is blogging, videos, and so forth. So this is the part that people start kind of getting twitchy about. It's like, I don't know how to blog. What do I blog? It doesn't have to be a blog a day. If your website, all you were doing was just one blog a month, stay consistent with one blog a month. Just be consistent and make sure that your blogs are optimized for search, and also making sure that your blogs are answering those questions that the customers are asking. And then the third one is linking. And so there's two types of linking. There's internal linking and then there's backlinking. So internal linking is as I'm writing a page on the website, right? So let's say I have a managed print services web page or a sub page, but then I write a blog on managed print services, having those two pages linked back and forth together. And so what happens is when Google crawls the site, it's saying, oh, wow, this is not only optimized for search, but I see a link to another page of theirs and it's optimized and it's also talking about managed print services. So your relevance to Google starts to go up. And that's going to greatly help you in organic search. So over the last 3 years, Novatech is pulling up on page 1 consistently for a lot of the strategic keywords that we're searching for organically because we're following that strategy and that methodology. The fourth one, remember I said there was a bonus one. The fourth one is actually going back to linking before I get to that. The other linking is backlinking. So let's say, your website was up there and you mentioned to Novatech. Well, and you linked back to Novatech. So what we're doing is we're grabbing some of your Google juice, if you will, and then sharing it with Novatech. So again, it goes back to Google's understanding the relevance of your site. And is it going to serve up your site to people who are actually searching for those types of things? So having more sites reference you and in the right industry and right publications greatly helps you. Then the fourth one, if I were to give you a fourth bonus one, is citations. So citations is your name, address, and phone number showing up in different directories. And a lot of times you'd be surprised how many wrong citations are out there, meaning they got your name right, they got your address right, but they got your phone wrong, or they got your phone right, but your address wrong. And so there's tools that you can leverage to actually go out and check those and update and send requests to get them updated. And by doing that, again, Google sees, okay, this is very relevant, it's accurate, it's matching what's out there to what's on their website. And all that just greatly boosts your credibility with them when they're doing, deciding who it's going to serve up when people are searching. So that's some of the cool stuff we're doing as far as digital. We're also doing a lot of outbound marketing, a lot of social media. I'm sure you guys are seeing us on LinkedIn and Twitter and all that good stuff. But it's really just driving awareness and trying to make sure that we're showing up in the right spots and delivering the message that's, again, answering the questions that people are asking out there.
Well, you're speaking my language with the backlinks and all that, the optimization for Google. That's something that's near and dear to our heart here. A question, and maybe I should have asked you this before we started recording, but
sure.
What the logical next step for a lot of companies in this industry, and I know you guys are kind of already down this path, so I think it's okay to ask. But let's talk about e-commerce and what you guys are doing going forward. I know that's a strategy that you've incorporated in there. You just talked about the big flex you've been doing on your website, and that seems like the logical next phase. So what are you doing with e-commerce, and how is that going to play into what you're doing in your marketing role going forward?
So from an e-com perspective, there's multiple flavors, right, that you can serve up. We're working with Keypoint Intelligence right now. If you were to go to novatech.net, there's a tool there that says click and check out our configurator tool. And so you can actually get on there, look at our full portfolio from a copier printer perspective. You can configure it. You can say, hey, I want this finisher. I want, this extra large capacity tray, and you can get all that set up. It's not giving you the ability to purchase today, but you can request a quote, and then that goes directly to one of our business technology associates, and they're actually going to then get back to the customer right away. So we have that set up. Another entity of Novatech, which is one of our subsidiaries or one of our businesses that we acquired, is Pahoda. So if you were to go to pahoda.com today, it's going to pull up a site that's going to take you to Copier Lease Center. That site is another one that has the ability to give you instant quotes and also leverages that same configurator tool. So there's a lot of cool ways to engage. At the end of the day, you want to make it convenient for the client and how they want to buy, not necessarily how we want to sell, right? So if a customer is not wanting to engage with a live person in that research phase, right, we want to make it very seamless and very easy for them. So they can get in there, they can do their own research, they can configure a machine, they can get a quote. And then if they want to talk to a live representative, then we'll give them the ability. And as you know, a lot of times it's not just a single unit. There's add-ons, there's services and stuff that we can package in. And that's where giving the customer the answer to the question they're looking for, and then giving them the ability, excuse me, to talk to a live person to continue to augment and grow that conversation and potential opportunity. So that's where we're at today. We don't have a setup today where somebody could actually go buy something though right offline.
Well, that's kind of the misconception with e-commerce. It doesn't necessarily mean that every product in your portfolio is in a shopping basket on your website, right? It's using the e-com system to facilitate sales, and whether that gets your sales rep in the door further down this, further ahead on the process where, now they're carrying a proposal that has device configured the way the customer wants it. And, but you do get the ability to come back and say, look, we've got a larger disk drive. Maybe you want to consider that, or maybe there's, some paper cut or some other service or solution that you want to add to it that, you didn't know that we had, or that you could add to this, right? But that's 100%. But it starts with the fact that if you think about how, you think about how you buy, you mentioned before, but I mean, I don't want to talk to a sales rep ever. And I know, right, that's not good for our industry, but I don't want to, so I go in when I buy a car, when I buy anything, I have all the information. I've researched it. I know the model. I know I know what I want to get. And I'm already that much further ahead. So I think, to your credit, putting all that out there, putting the ability, in the customer's hands to kind of configure that device using you're using the Uverse system. Is that it? The key point?
We are.
So you use that, and so the customer can physically build their Canon, their Konica, HP, all the different brands that you have, and see what it's going to look like, see how big it's going to be, measure it. I mean, you get everything. It's no different than the way you buy that car online. You still get that phone call. You don't run a credit card when you buy a car online. Somebody calls you, you have a conversation, or you go back and forth through emails a few times before you get to that point. Even when even with some of these Carvana and some of these other companies, there's services they want to add. There's extras, right? And so
100%.
But the e-commerce is what starts that conversation. And kudos to you guys for doing it. I love that. So looking at your website over the last couple of years, what's the increase been like? Have you seen a big boost, a big jump?
Huge. I mean, our engagement ratio and the number of leads that we're bringing in is more than tripled over the past few years. A lot of that is, we've completely relaunched the site. We used the fundamental elements that I just went through and took our time to make sure it was done correctly. And then I really put a lot of stock into what we were talking about earlier, which is making sure that we're answering those questions that the buyers or prospective buyers are coming to the site for, because we're not getting a lot of people bouncing off the site, and they're staying, they're engaging, they're looking through the site, they're engaging with the configurator tool and so forth. And, it's interesting. You brought up the car scenario, right? So I've done that. I've gone on and I've looked, and, it's the ones that are really easy to use, that I'm getting everything that I'm looking for, right? When I'm surfing the site and building it, there's my dream car. Those are the sites that I'll continue to go back to and engage with. It's the ones that are like, man, this is kind of fragmented. I'm really kind of stuck. I hit a roadblock, and then I'm off to the next one. So take that same methodology and apply it to Novatech, and that's what we're trying to accomplish.
And you build loyalty.
And build loyalty. Right.
You do.
Exactly.
So advice to your peers, your competitors, your peers, your colleagues at other office resellers, managed service companies. Well, as we wrap this up, what would you leave them with? Where from a marketing perspective,
I would say advice. All the stuff I shared with you guys, shared with you on the podcast today, isn't rocket science. It's not a secret sauce. The hardest part, and hardest part is always execution. And just being consistent. It's just doing it. And, so that's number one. Just, start basic. You don't have to be on all platforms. Even from a social media perspective, I'll see people who I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Threads, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube. It's like, it's too much if you don't have the team to execute and support on it. You'd be better served being on one platform and just really killing it on that one than being on all of them and just doing an okay job, right?
Yeah,
so that's that. And then The other thing the biggest advice is just invest in making sure you're putting out good content. Good content continues to be king. If it's quality, people are going to, like you said, build that brand loyalty, that thought leadership, that trust. They'll continue to come back. Just spend the time to make good content, and it doesn't have to be in mass. It just has to be consistent. So for us here at Novatech, I mean, we're blogging 3 to 4 times a week to novatech.net. But if I was a smaller company and I just had maybe one person in marketing, and I could just do maybe one blog every 2 weeks or one blog every month, and it was consistent, that's awesome. Just be consistent.
Just get new stuff on your website. You just get, that's what you need. You need, your website gets stale very quickly these days. Not you,
it does.
In general. Yeah. If people don't put content on it, Google looks past it. And after a while, when they don't see things changing, you start falling down that list to the second, to the third, to the fifth, to the 10th page.
100%. And no one looks there. No one goes past.
No.
I mean, think about it when
page or two, that's it.
Yeah. And think about this when you guys are thinking about paid ads. And I use paid strategically. Okay. But Andy, if you searched for anything on Google and it pulls up the website or the web results, are you clicking on those ads, or do you scroll down?
No one does.
Are you scrolling down to where what's coming up organically and clicking that?
That's what you want. You want the organic content or the company, because you feel like that's the one getting real traffic. That's the one, right? And so, and that's where we try to be. Obviously, that's where you guys want to be, and the OEMs, that's where they want to be. Everyone wants that top spot on that first page, right? So, good advice. This has been awesome. It's been a long time coming. We took a few shots at getting this thing off the ground, and we're never. We
did.
A few little hiccups in our podcast scheduling, but we did get it done. So congrats to us. Jim, thank you so much for this. This was great. I look forward to seeing you hopefully sooner than later, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds good, man. Great. Have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.